Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another podcast of Conversations with Tara and Ryan. I am Tara, and today I am missing Ryan, and I thought he's been asking me forever to do the intro. So, Ryan, there I did the intro for you. But I am excited that we have a special guest on today, someone that I've gotten to know over, I would say, the last year and part of our Long Island chapter, Marc Berlin. Welcome to the podcast, Marc.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, so I have your background, your professional. I know what you do, but I just want to share with other people what you do. And you have a background in a lot of things: human resources, health administration, and advocacy for seniors and people with disabilities.
Yes.
Your undergraduate degree is in human resources. You got a master's in health services administration from George Washington University. I see that you completed training to be a family-centered patient advocate in 2019, and then in 2020 you became a Take Charge campaign ambassador. So I feel very fortunate to have you on the show today to talk about what it means to be an advocate and your background and how you got into this. So I will stop talking and let you share a little bit about yourself and what got you into this world and your work with older adults.
You did very well. You did very well with that intro. The only other thing
Thank you.
to add to that is that I am passed my board certification almost a year ago. So I'm proud to say I'm also a board certified patient advocate.
Oh, fantastic. And you serve on several boards. You're on our Long Island
I am.
NAIPC board and several others.
Yes.
So
I work on the National Aging in Place Long Island chapter. I help with the Sunshine Chair to not only to share unfortunate experiences, but to spread the good. People's having birthdays, anniversaries, and to keep everyone in the loop.
Nice. That's nice. Your group says NAIPC. That always throws me off, NAIPC instead of NAIPC. But I appreciate all the work that you do. You come from a fantastic chapter.
Thank you. And it's a good chapter, good people.
Yeah. And the other two boards that you serve on?
I am on the board member for Destination Accessible. It's a Long Island-based organization that provides information for people with mobility challenges on the website to allow them to go out to recreational places as well as just to have fun at restaurants, museums, parks. Gives all the information on the accessibility factors. I also serve as a secretary for the Alzheimer's Disease Resource Center based in East Islip, New York. And just to touch on what you spoke about, I am a volunteer with the Pulse Center for Patient Safety, Education, and Advocacy. And under Eileen Carina, I took her training that you mentioned, family-centered training and Take Charge ambassador. And now I'm on the planning committee for the Pulse, the symposium.
That's fantastic. And they are a member of the Long Island chapter as well.
Yes, they are.
I recognize her name. So you guys are a tight group up there taking care of older adults in New York. I love it.
Yes. I focus mostly on helping those wanting to stay at home and age in place. That's my primary focus. I will work as well as on transitions from hospital to rehab or rehab to home, as well as placement to long-term care facilities.
That's great. And so when somebody says patient care advocate, that could open up a lot of different ideas in your head of what you do. So if a family does, what type of people need your services?
No, it depends. A family whose older mother or father, aunt or uncle live alone, and the kids are out of state, and the individual needs help getting to the doctor. Not only just getting to the doctor, but being there to make sure that their questions are answered. Being helping with communication between the doctor and the individual to make sure she understands or he understands what to do, especially when it's a new diagnosis. That could be very challenging. And it could be things like insurance claims that something might need to be approved that was denied.
That's always a hard one.
Paid. Extremely.
Yeah.
Especially when something gets denied. And I spent nearly 15 years in provider relations here in New York on the provider side. So I understand what the members are going through now.
Nice. It's nice to have that kind of help as well. Our work here in Orange County was physical therapy. The insurance part of things makes it so complicated. Healthcare is complicated enough, and then you throw in insurance. So it's nice that you help people with that as well.
It is, and Medicare doesn't cover everything. And then you sometimes have to have a secondary. Sometimes you may need to go on Medicaid. Sometimes if involved in long-term care insurance, and
Mhm.
just to cover all these services that are not always 100% free.
Yeah, and that's a great reason why people would use your service, because you probably know what they don't know. If they need
Yes,
help, you have many of the answers, I'm sure.
I like to think as advocates as a resource to help
Nice.
people with placement, help you with home health or companion, or even medical alerts, and to be there for them so they could remain safe.
So you're kind of like a private concierge assistant for your older adults. You
Yeah,
help them with transportation, you help them with healthcare, probably social engagement as well, keeping
I
them
try to get
social.
get information to them if they live alone, to get them to the senior centers or libraries for programs, and help them with their appointments to make sure their questions are asked when they have a condition, like
Yeah.
what symptoms do they have, rating the system, making sure that the doctor explains the situation and what to do. They understand the procedure and the next steps.
And probably a little medication management as well.
Yes. Oh, I do that also. Not only do I make sure I have the doctor's information organized, because there are a lot of specialists involved sometimes, as well as listing the medication so they have it in place. I also developed, if I can see, a medication ID card,
Oh, nice.
which they can keep in their wallet. There are a lot of different types, and this is very small, but this is just for an emergency case scenario. I also developed a magnet,
Oh, that's nice.
just in case of emergencies. Not only contact people, doctor, pharmacy, agencies, relatives, so it's easily accessible.
Yeah, that's great. And for those that are listening and not watching, he just held up a couple different um,
Oh, oh,
marketing materials he created. So if somebody wants to get a hold of that, can they find that on your website?
they can, yes. The medical ID card is available. The pictures, and they contact me. I could send them the magnet or a larger identity card for safekeeping.
That's great. And you are on the Marc, MARC advocate.com. I like that because you're Mark with a C. That's a cute name. I love puns like that.
Thank you. I also developed it because of a Yankee baseball player, Mark Teixeira.
Oh, you're a
Whenever he
baseball
did a home
fan.
run, the announcer would say, "You're on the mark." So I want to be on the mark when I assist patients and their families.
Oh, I like that. So maybe you can explain a little bit, with your vast background that you have, how you kind of morphed into the role that you are now with your own company and doing your own thing.
Well, I was working in healthcare and provider relations. And then when in 2008, 2009, I transitioned to working with a medical alert company and a diabetic company. Medical alerts for seeing older adults, dependent, if you fall, you can't get up,
Hmm.
providing peace of mind. I also worked for a diabetic company, marketing a glucose meter that was good for people who had hearing problems as well couldn't see, because the numbers were bigger and it also was voice activated.
Nice.
And then since 2012, I've been working as a compliance consultant for an outpatient mental health clinic with multiple locations, doing medical record review in lieu of an audit, checking progress notes, treatment plans. But then I had some issues with my parents. My mother developed a brain tumor in
Mm.
2015, and she succumbed to that in 2017. Hard battle, but she fought it with dignity and courage.
Mm.
And my father passed away several months later from a staph infection. And during that time, I was in a bereavement support group locally. And the social worker told me about a program that Eileen offers, one of her fantastic programs that she offers, patient activation and community conversation. So from there, I found other organizations like AFA, the Alliance of Professional Health Advocates, Greater National Advocates, and most recently, the National Association of Healthcare Advocates.
Mhm.
And took some courses, learned a lot, and something that I felt like I have passion about and contribute.
Mm.
And I do it to honor my mother's memory, who fought the disease with, head on.
Nice. I believe that the majority of our members at NAIPC have gotten into this role. It's their next phase in life, and it's because of a personal experience with their family or a loved one. And it makes you a little more passionate about what you do, I think.
Absolutely, and it gives credibility.
Hmm.
Not only do I have the education, a lot of education, but I have the experience. not only firsthand with my mother, but when she fought the brain tumor, but also she took care of me during my battles with my surgeries stemming from cerebral palsy.
I think I read somewhere before, maybe it was you, you've had up to 20 surgeries related to that. So she took care of you.
Corrective modifications.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it makes a difference when you've gone through it yourself and you know how it feels, and you can be a little more empathetic, I think. Not that people that haven't had that kind of experience can't be empathetic, but you know, you feel it differently.
For the patient, you know the frustration.
Yes.
And you know the fear. And you need someone that's been there to help them along in the journey.
Yeah. So when people call you, what do you generally find as their biggest need, the number one problem they call you about?
It could be medical, finding a rehab place because they're about to be discharged from the hospital. That's been a case several times. Another case has been general checkups once a month for someone who lives alone and needs that. It could be medical, it could be something around the house, it could be a cleaning person that they need. And we don't think about that. We don't think medical, but it could be cleaning assistants, could be computer assistants, something around the house that they need to help them, in their daily lives. Or finding resources, whether it's a senior center, a library, reading group, to get them more active and involved so they don't spend too much time alone, especially after a spouse passes away. And then help with medical bills.
Nice.
Got some calls for those.
Yeah. Being discharged from the hospital is such a scary thing, isn't it? You mentioned they get calls, then you think a case manager is going to help you, but they're so overworked. They're fantastic, but they're overworked and they don't always have the right resources. And
the transition can be difficult to make sure that their apartment or home perhaps is equipped and all the modifications are done before they get home. Lighting, walk-in showers, raised toilet seats. And then the most important that I offer also is medical alerts. One of my concierge.
Yeah, that's a big one. My mom just had surgery and had to use a scooter. And I thought we were preparing her house and she was prepared. And then after, when she's actually in there on the scooter, I was like, wow, I do this all the time. And I did not get my mom properly prepared. And it was mostly related to the bathroom, getting her in and out of the shower, making sure there were no fall risks. So what are some tips you give people when they've had maybe a surgery and they're being discharged and their bathroom isn't ready? Because that's where most falls happen, right?
Right, exactly. And that's why I make sure they have a medical alert if there's a fall. And the hard part with medical alert is making sure they wear the medical alert. If they don't wear it and they fall down, there's no way they can get to them.
Yeah.
There's no way they could call for help.
Are those waterproof, the
Yes,
medical alerts? Oh, nice. So you can wear it in the shower and be extra safe.
Right. And you could go outside with it and check the mail, and you could press the button. They may not hear you, but they'll call, the neighbors, family, and friends to see if you're okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Protocol. The other thing I've noticed during COVID is people wearing masks. It's very hard to communicate between the patient and either the nurse or the doctor. And it's important for the patient to speak up if they don't understand something, and to ask the right questions and understand the answers that the doctor is giving, and for individuals to know themselves and take charge of their own conditions and medications and understand the results and the next steps in the process.
Yeah, that's a big one, because the doctor is the expert, but you know your body, you know what things feel like, and you know when things are wrong. So that's definitely
sometimes you're not sure. Sometimes you're not sure.
Right.
Sometimes you may not want to go, but it's important to go right away to get primary care at least once a year. Then the specialist, find the specialist if you're having an issue.
A lot of it's also being honest with yourself, right? About what your needs are.
Yes.
That's the hardest conversation. We're working on the next NAIPC book, which is about difficult conversations we have. But I think the most difficult one is the one you have with yourself.
Absolutely.
And putting yourself in the right mindset. So I know that also something that we're very big on here at NAIPC is just planning. And the sooner you start planning, the more options that you have available to you. So do you find that in your work as well? When someone's, say, diagnosed with a progressive disease, do you encourage them to think now about what they'll need in 20 years?
I encourage them, one, to have certain things in place: durable power of attorney, advanced directive / healthcare proxy, make sure that's filled out. All right. Making sure, as I mentioned before, the medications are listed, and make sure you have all the doctors listed. Because here in New York, you could see a doctor in a Northwest health system, but you could see another doctor in another Mount Sinai system. That's just two examples. So you want to have the information available, whether it's on paper, on a USB, or on your phone, just so it's accessible. And to get, things in order, not only for you, but for your family.
Yeah, that's probably a tip for anybody, regardless of what age you are.
Right. And regardless if you have a condition, you want to be more proactive
Yeah,
than reactive.
very true. So your service area, I know you are in New York, but do
Yes.
you work with people outside of the state?
I will work in primarily in the New York metropolitan area, parts of New Jersey and Connecticut. But for certain tasks and issues, we could do it by Zoom, and I could do it remote, especially when it's insurance.
And then do you find that you're mostly working with the adult children, or is it more the older adults?
I do work with the older adults, but I do communicate with the families to make sure they're up to date and
That's
that
nice.
they understand. I worked with someone during COVID, helping him go to his wound care appointments, as well as helping him to his cardiologist, because he needed a new stent put in. But I had to communicate that to his daughters and to keep them up to date, because the older adult may not tell their families everything.
I was thinking that when you said you would go along to doctor's appointments, sometimes you don't get back what the doctor said to your parent, or they misinterpreted it, or they just don't want you to know their business because
That's why
they're the
it's so
parent.
important to carry this book with you.
What is that book there?
Oh, it's just a notebook, but
Oh, a
it's
notebook.
to keep information,
Yeah.
keep track of things.
Yeah. But it's also nice that the families can work with you and they can just be focused on their relationship with their parent and spending time with the parent. And you can handle all the junk work and the insurance and the doctors and just let them have a nice time, right?
Well, kids, children of older adults could be busy. They may have their own job. They have their own kids. They're stuck, as we call the sandwich generation. It can be very not time consuming, but complicated. And you
Yes.
may need some outside assistance just to handle the situation.
Yeah. And you're
Don't
there to
know.
help.
Right, especially when you have to be released from the hospital and you don't know where to turn. Or if you need help, organizing her patient's appointments with the various specialists.
And
Or
if
you
they
get,
need your help, it's not forever, right? You could just help them get off the ground and go on their way.
I've had, one or two cases where I've only helped like for a few weeks, getting something approved, or getting more home health approved by the doctor for 24 hours, or it could be on a regular basis, on like a monthly basis, just checking in.
Nice. I like that. So you really are an advocate for whatever people need.
Yes.
Nice.
And we're there. We're there for the patient and the family, to give the family peace of mind. And the patient may only need me once or twice, or it could be long term. The point is the purpose is to help those individuals help themselves.
That's great.
And
And
I like to say, as my saying goes, life may be smoother if you have a patient advocate by your side.
I was just about to read what was behind you for the people that were listening. I love the slogan. Yeah, that's fantastic. So if people do want you to help their life to be a little smoother, how would they get a hold of you?
My website is onthemarkadvocate.com with a C. I'm also on social media under MSB Advocate 21, the number 21, on Facebook and Instagram. And
then,
my email is mark@onthemarkadvocate.com.
and Mark with a C. All of those
Yes.
marks are Mark with a C. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you sharing what you do and learning a little bit more about you. But before we leave, I always like to ask, before we end, I like to ask, what is the one most important tip that you would like to share with people listening?
I wish I could say there's one. There's so many.
I'll let you pick two.
You know what? You know what? If you're a dependent of an older adult, make sure that you check in with your parents. Make sure that they're okay, whether you live 5 minutes away or 5 hours away. Make sure they're okay. If you're the individual, make sure you have systems in place. Make sure that your house is safe. Make sure you have enough lighting. Make sure you have the medical alert if you live alone, and keep in touch and tell people if you need assistance.
That's fantastic. Thank you. That's a great tip. Sometimes you just have to ask, right? Just ask.
Yes, yes. I do that in
And
my own life.
yeah,
So I try to help do that with others.
that's fantastic. And then if there anyone listening that's a professional in the Long Island area, how often does your chapter meet? I believe it's 3 times a month. Is that right? How do they get a hold of you?
NAIPC Long Island meets twice a month.
Twice a
The
month.
second Tuesday is virtual on Zoom, and then the 2 weeks later, it's at a facility on Long Island.
Fantastic. So one in person, one online, perfect for everybody.
Yes,
And they can reach out to you or NAIPC@ageandplace.org if they want to find out more information.
absolutely. First 2
And
meetings are free.
awesome. Well, thank you, Mark, for joining us today. I appreciate it. And we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much for the time. This was nice.